Hi everyone, Leah here. I'm here hanging out with my friend Dave Kane, and I call him the Ormus man because he knows pretty much everything about Ormus. I've never met anyone who was so knowledgeable, so I thought it'd be really great to have him talk to you guys a bit about it.
Yeah, well, I guess the first question everybody asks is, what is Ormus? Anyway, what Ormus is, the simplest way we've come up to describe it, Ormus is a fifth state of matter. Any material that you're familiar with will come in three states, whether it's a solid, a liquid, a gas. For example, we work with Ormus gold, so depending on the temperature, you can have a solid, a liquid, or a gas. Also, if you supercool something down close to absolute zero, you will have certain elements take on the properties of plasmas. There's a fifth state of matter, and that is an energized state of any of the, it looks like any of these elements whatsoever. 52 have been discovered. In the energized state, what happens is the molecule sheds its outer electron ring, and it goes into a high spin state, and it is no longer chemically reactive with any substance whatsoever. It behaves as though it's an inert gas. And what we know about this is that 5% of the dry weight of the human brain and nervous system is composed of materials in the ormic state. And the reason that this is important is that materials in the ormic state are very subject to influences by electromagnetic fields. So what happens when you pull a cell phone up to your ear? Your Ormus material that's part of your construction is moving away from the electromagnetic field. Now in us, Ormus materials, because they're chemically inert, they work as a governance and regulatory materials. We need to have them even though they're not consumed. And we're born with this 5% ratio of these materials, and technically we should have it forever. We increase from our food supply, except that that's getting degraded over time. And so we're ending up with a net loss of these ormic materials because of our exposure to electromagnetic fields. The stronger the field, the greater the loss of materials. And with the degrading food supply, we're not replacing them as quickly as we should be. So we end up in a net loss situation. Now, Ormus is not being researched at university levels anywhere in the world today. Our group here, we're trying to get clinical studies started in Poland right now, and it's moving along, starting pretty good. But there's so much to be known about these materials, and there's so little intention on the part of the status quo to look into any of this. Once you start to understand a little bit of what the Ormus materials contribute, you start to understand that the shortage of these materials contributes to virtually every chronic disease known. What we have to understand, first of all, is if we can supplement these materials, which we can, this stuff can be made, it's not particularly difficult. But what happens is, as these materials start to come back into your body, we've seen absolutely ridiculous changes. Most people that use Ormus, if they have, for example, skin cancer problems, usually when they dab it on, anywhere 2 to 10 days, skin cancers just fall off. You don't need to cut them off. When you ingest this internally, it starts to bring our systems back the way they should. It improves our neural messaging. Evidence of the neural messaging improvement comes from Lugano, Switzerland in 2003, and also a lot of independent lab testing in Georgia in the United States. And what they found is when a person is hooked up to an EEG, the electroencephalogram, where they get everything on your head, within 2 hours of taking Ormus, what happens is that the alpha and the theta activities in the right and left brain lobes slowly start to come into balance. It takes about a week to 2 weeks, depending on the person, their nature, and how short they are in materials. But once this balance is achieved, it starts to manifest itself in a lot of different ways. You start to get clarity of decision making. You start to get a greater calmness. You'll start to notice certain things that used to bother you or vex you no longer bother you. And we sort of found that out the hard way. We had a few people would take Ormus for a couple of months, think nothing of it, didn't notice any changes. Then when they stopped taking it, they start to realize, hey, those little things that were bothering me before are now bothering me again, but they had this respite for 2 months, you know. So if you watch the effects of this stuff, there's both physical effects and spiritual effects. Right now, I'll tell you some of the physical effects. Usually, about 60% of the people that take Ormus within the first day or two have a very significant change in their dream patterns.
I did. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had the most amazing lucid dream last week. This was after a week of taking it. Actually, the first night I had a very vivid dream. So all my dreams have been so vivid. I've been remembering my dreams. And for the longest time, I couldn't remember my dreams, like just once in a while. So I had a lucid dream, and I could control everything, and it lasted such a long time. It was so amazing. And I haven't done anything else other than take the Ormus, so it has to be because of that. It was incredible.
It's just, again, it just brings our systems back to where they should be. We're all operating in deficit. I mean, this isn't going to bring everything back, but it's going to bring some things back. People that haven't dreamed at all will start to dream. I used to dream in color, and the first time I took Ormus over 3 years ago, it went to what I would describe as super high definition textured color. You know, and I mean, I even had dreams in black and white that turned out to be super high definition textured three-dimensional black and white, and you would look at them and you'd think, who needs color? This is great. But again, not everybody gets this effect, but over half of the people that take Ormus. That's one of the earliest things that you notice. A lot of the gals really like it because usually within about a week you'll start to find there's no more hair in your hairbrush when you start to brush your hair. In a month you'll start to notice changes in textures and fingernails.
Probably skin too.
Yeah. Everybody's a little different because it depends on what your shortages are and over what period of time they've accumulated. So we've had a few people that have actually regrown quite a bit of hair. They would start taking Ormus internally and applying it, you know, just rubbing it onto their head. And,
Didn't you used to have more gray hair?
Oh yeah, I had a lot more gray hair. Well, that's a combination of two things, I think. I take the Ormus every day. And I also use a shampoo that's available in the U.S., stuff called Miracle 2, which it looks like the Miracle 2 has Ormus copper in its makeup. So between the two things, I've gone quite a bit darker than I used to be. But that's all. I don't use chemicals for anything whatsoever. But you know,
so other than the physical, other than just you know. Stronger hair, nails, what other kinds of physical?
That's what you start to notice first off. I noticed in my case about 10 weeks into Ormus, I get out of the shower one day and I had lost about 80% of the moles and tags that I had since I was a teenager. They were gone. I never usually notice because the shower's all fogged mirror, right? But somebody left the door open. Anyway, that I noticed, that was about 10 weeks. My partner Ricky has been dyslexic her entire life, and we started to notice after about 10 months of taking Ormus that she wasn't messing up her rights and lefts anymore. She wasn't transposing phone numbers because she has a dog grooming business. She always has to phone people to collect their dogs, and quite often she phones people she never met. That started to disappear. And one of her protocols, if she was going to write a letter to her brother, for example, she would write the letter out by hand. Then she would put on her Dragon program and she would read the letter into the computer. Then she would go to the spell check on the computer and correct everything. And by about 10 or 11 months, she's just starting to type into the computer directly. And you know, now it's 3 years and she doesn't even use spell check anymore. She corrects me as much as I correct her. So that melted away, and Ricky at the time was 66 years old, so lifelong dyslexia just started to melt away. So again, it just looks like neural coordination and neural messaging and just getting the materials in. Your body knows what to do with the materials once it gets them. you know. And so I mean, there's that. We have downstream from us now, we have two other people that are making Ormus. We have about 1,200 people using Ormus altogether now. We started to supply a village in Mexico. We have about 700 people in this village that use Ormus now. And that came through one of my partner Ricky's friends, who was originally born in this village, lives in California, and he's a very spiritual man. And he's been trying to raise money to build a clinic in Mexico. So originally we called him, suggested he look into the Ormus because he could maybe set up a hacienda down there, treat some wealthy Americans, get them to come down, raise his money that way. But he really didn't want to have anything to do with that. He said, if you've got anything that works half as good as what you say, send it. We've got sick people in my village, we've got sick people here, let's try it out. So we sent Ormus to Jose. There was 3 people in the village in Mexico that had leukemia that were bedridden at the time. So by the time we sent Ormus to Jose, then he had to drive it to Mexico, then a truck had to take it 1,000 miles down Mexico to get it to the village. Anyway, by the time it got there, 2 of the people had passed. The 3rd guy was bedridden for, 2-3 months. He could talk on a telephone, but he couldn't hold it. He didn't have enough strength to hold the phone. And so they talked to him, and they started to give him the Ormus. And within 2 weeks, this guy's name is Chico, within 2 weeks he was sitting up and he was able to get out of bed. Within 4 weeks he was eating like a horse, gaining his weight back. Grab that, I'll look at it downstairs. He was gaining his weight back, and now Chico looks after our testimonials in Mexico. We've got 100 testimonials from there so far. 30 have been translated to English, and we still have 70 to translate at this point. Anyway, word got out around the village, more people started to use it, and with not having a clinic or a doctor, they started to use it for all kinds of things. One of the first ladies that found out about this came from another village. She had a brain tumor, and they didn't have the money to have this operated on and so on, so she started taking the Ormus for that. And that's nearly 2 years ago, and she said within 2 days the pain in her head had stopped, and she's doing fine apparently. We're maybe going to go and visit everybody in a few months and see. But that was the first things, and now there's 700 people using it down there for everything.
Wow, that's great.
So it's interesting stuff. I mean, we need more people looking into this, more people researching, more people, collecting results and stuff.